Welcome back, and this is the continuation of the last class, part one. So this will be part two on the subject of World War II for the World Civilizations History class for at Prince Muhammad University. Um, Now, as we said earlier, there were so many experiments that took place between the two world wars. And one of them, as we said earlier also, had to do with Hitler's goals. One of the points was his theories concerning racial superiority. In essence, his idea was that the Aryan race were a superior race, and apparently these were the only people who had the right to exist and to be the master race, and the other folks, the other people, were subservient or should be subservient to them. But there were, of course, the group that, as it is well known, the group of people that were most targeted were the Jews. Some historians and some people have pointed out that one of the reasons they were targeted was because of their involvement in the finances of Germany, and they were the easiest people to be blamed for whatever ills, whatever bad things were happening in Germany at that time. Nevertheless, there were other reasons that led to this to World War II. And Hitler felt that he was a very charismatic person. I need to make this point that he was a very charismatic person, and he felt that the Germans had been basically dealt a raw deal at the Treaty of Versailles, that the terms to which they signed up were totally unreasonable. So he set out to pretty much destroy what had taken place in Versailles and to give the German people back their dignity, and that he felt that some of the things that they were paying for were not really reasonable. So one of the things that he did was to withdraw from the League of Nations and then set out almost systematically to pick apart the Treaty of Versailles. He formally renounced the disarmament provisions in the treaty, which clearly stated that the Germans were not allowed to have conscription, or should we say the draft. So he reinstated the draft, which means to bring people where young men had to join the military. Of course, the League of Nations criticized Hitler, but no action was taken. Some people feel that because of this, he was emboldened and continued in his actions. There were other events that took place that sort of gave him the courage to continue with his idea of the destruction of the Treaty of Versailles. One such event was Mussolini's attack on Ethiopia. Let us remember, or let us not forget, that uh, one of the reasons that World War I occurred was this scramble for Africa. And it seems that the Ethiopians felt left out, that they did not get as much of what they considered or might have considered their share of Africa. So in 1935, Mussolini attacked Ethiopia. And again, nothing was done by the League of Nations. It was condemned. Italy was condemned, and an embargo was placed. But in effect, it was rather, there were sanctions, but it was pretty ineffective. Um, the no embargo on oil, and in essence, it gave Mussolini and Hitler the green light to go ahead with their ways. Mussolini's idea was that he wanted to restore the grandeur and the imperial glory of Rome, but of course this was at the expense of the Ethiopian people. Another event that Hitler used to pick apart the Treaty of Versailles was to send troops into a demilitarized zone, which was the Rhineland. Again, the response by the League of Nations was pretty much, well, let us try to keep things simple, let us try not to rock the boat. And this was seen by some as weakness, and it was referred to as a policy of appeasement. In other words, let us try to keep things, let's try to solve things in a very peaceful way. But in fact, it seems that it just gave Hitler a better reason to continue working to destroy the Treaty of Versailles and become more bold in his actions. As we mentioned earlier, there were also one of the experiments that took place between the two world wars was the one that was fascism. And one event in particular was the elections in Spain in 1936, and it was won by the Republicans. But the Phalangists, which might have been considered the opposing party, did not accept it. So a civil war broke out. This was led by General Francisco Franco, and again, he he established a rule of fascism, and a lot of people were killed. Many Spaniards suffered, and in fact, Spain is still, till this day, suffering some of the consequences of that civil war. The Phalangists and Franco, uh, these people were backed, the fascists which were backed by Hitler and Mussolini, whereas the Republicans were supported by the British and the French. As we can see, there is a rift developing here, which eventually led to a broader battle, World War, which led to World War II. This is all a build-up to what eventually became World War II. Now, Mussolini had initially um, disagreed with Hitler. Hitler wanted to annex Austria, but we could see different nations taking sides, and eventually Austria was annexed by Germany, and again, pretty much nothing happened. Germany invaded Austria, we see in March 12, and formed a union with Austria. Also, Czechoslovakia was invaded, but the the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, was soon to take place. Even at this point, with all the effects, all the invasions and everything that Hitler had done, even though he had annexed Austria and had invaded Czechoslovakia. Neville Chamberlain, the then Prime Minister of Britain, said he believed in peace, and he continued his the policy of appeasement. But in the view of most or of many historians, this just sort of emboldened Hitler to continue. But after Czechoslovakia, and after there was even though there was a non-aggression pact signed between the Nazis and the Soviet, Hitler continued, and his next target was Poland, and this was the trigger that eventually started World War II. Hitler's invasion of Poland was, as many historians have pointed out, the trigger that broke World War II wide. We will continue with what happened in World War II from 1939 to 1945 in the next class or in the next section of these lectures. Thank you for listening.